week I'm getting crafty and nerding out with a new geeky DIY project for you guys. If that sounds awesome, hit that subscribe button down below to join our Nerd DIY family. So recently in the United States, the CDC has been recommending that people wear personal masks when they go outside, to the grocery store, or things like that. And so I decided that it would be a good time to teach you guys how to make your very own masks, since masks are in very short supply at this time. We want to reserve all of the good quality medical masks for our hospital workers. So I wanted to show you guys how to make your very own mask with things that you can find at home. So of course there's a ton of mask tutorials out there, but this one's a little bit different in that we're gonna make it a little bit nerdy. I got some Harry Potter Deathly Hallows fabric that we're gonna make these out of, make it a super cute nerdy mask so you can show off your fandom while you're staying safe. So let's get started on making these masks.
So the first thing that you want to do is grab your fabric and fold it in half, because we're going to want to cut on the fold. Then you're going to measure out 9 inches by 6 inches. I did this on a piece of paper so that I could just use it as a pattern for later on. You can also just do this by measuring it out and using chalk. But I thought this way would be faster for future use. I just used a piece of computer paper. Then I pinned it onto my fabric. You don't have to do that, but I think that it keeps it a little bit more stable. I placed the 9-inch edge on my fold and then cut it out of my fabric. When you open up your fabric, it should be a 9-inch by 12-inch piece of fabric. Now you're going to fold your piece in half with the right sides touching each other. Now we're going to sew the top edge of our rectangle. We're going to make it so there's 2 seams with an opening in the middle. So I'm going to pin the 2 edges, and then I'm going to mark with pins where I should stop in the middle to keep our opening. We're going to use this opening later to be able to turn our mask inside out. So you're going to only sew from the left edge to the middle pin, and then the second middle pin to the right edge, so that you have a hole in the middle. So I'm just going to bring that over to my sewing machine and sew it up. Then I'm just going to take those pins out and we're going to move on to our elastic. You're going to measure it to 7 inches. Now my Joann's only had 1/2 inch elastic, and a 1/4 inch elastic works so much better. So what I did here is I just took the 1/2 inch elastic and I cut it in half. There'll be a few little pieces that stick out and you can just pull those off, but otherwise it will work the same as a 1/4 inch elastic if your craft store doesn't have it. So then you should have 2 pieces of 7-inch long 1/4 inch elastics. Now we're going to go back to our rectangle piece and we're going to sew in our elastic. You want to put your elastic into the inside of your rectangle piece. You're going to take one edge of the elastic and pin it just under the seam that you just sewed. And then you're going to take the second piece of elastic and you're going to pin it at the fold of your fabric at the bottom. So we want to make sure that the elastic is not twisted up, so you want to make sure that your elastic is making a nice smooth curve inside of the fabric. And then you're just going to pin down the middle piece because we're going to be sewing along the edge of the fabric. Now you do the same exact thing on the other side with your second piece of elastic. Now we're going to sew down the 2 sides of our fabric. Make sure that you do some double back stitching where your elastic pieces are to help keep them in place. Then I'm going to take those pins out and I'm going to flip the fabric right side out through the hole that we left in the top. I like to push out the fabric with my finger where the elastic has been, just because it gets a little bit caught in there. I want to make sure that the edges are nice and crisp. Now it's time to add our filter in. I'm using felt because it's a nice tightly woven fabric. It is a little bit heavy for some people, so you could also use something lighter. I just really liked it because it's what I had on hand and I didn't have to go to the store to buy it. So you're just going to take your felt and you're just going to place it on top of your mask and just kind of eyeball where to cut it. I just cut it a little bit smaller than the size of your mask. It just has to fit inside of your mask is all. If it's a little bit unstraight, that's totally fine. No one's gonna see it. Now we're gonna take our piece of felt and we're gonna put it on the inside of our rectangle. I just folded it up a little bit so that it was easier to squeeze in through the hole. You just want to make sure that your felt lies flat with inside the rectangle and that each corner fits in each corner. It might take a little bit of time to get this perfectly right, but as long as you keep squishing around with your fingers, it'll fall into place a lot easier than you think. I tried this method by sewing on the felt at first, and it just made it a little bit difficult to do the pleating later, so I found that this method worked easier, even though it takes a little bit of time to get it to be squished into the right place. Now that we have our felt inside and it is laying flat, we are going to start making our pleats. I decided to eyeball my pleats instead of giving exact measurements. You can measure these out as 1/2 inch pleats if you want, but I found it easier just to eyeball it. So to make a pleat, all you need to do is take your 2 fingers and squish some fabric in between and fold it over. You're basically making the mask into a tiny accordion. So I just put my 2 fingers in about a 1/2 inch down from the top, and then I fold the piece that I've squished in between my fingers over on top of itself. I'll pin the side so that it stays together and we can sew over it. At the end of this, you'll end up with 3 pleats, and they should all be about uniform to each other. If they're not, it won't really matter because we're going to be unsquishing this part of the mask later. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sew around the edge of our mask. You're going to sew across the pleats, around the top of your mask, down the other pleats, and then around the bottom of the mask. And what this will do is it will keep the pleats in place and it will close up the hole that we had in the top. Then once you have this sewed, you're going to take out the pins, and then you're going to take your mask from the 2 top edges and pull the pleats apart. And this will make it so that your nose can fit in, and it will leave a little bit of room in there so that your mouth isn't touching the edge of the mask. Then you have your mask, and you'll look super cute when you're going grocery shopping and keeping safe.
I hope you guys liked this project. I really like how the felt filter inside makes this a little bit sturdier of a mask, and it just makes it feel a little bit more safe is all. I just love how cute it turned out, and I know that I've had friends who've already gotten compliments on the mask that I made them. I made all of these for my family, help keep them all safe, and people are really loving them, so definitely try this out. The best way to put these on is to open up the pleats so that it fits your nose, and then you just put these like this, and it looks so super cute. And you can look super cool while you're staying safe. If you guys do end up making some masks, whether you use my pattern or someone else's, I would love to see them. Tag me on your posts on Twitter and Instagram. I would love to see what you guys do. I'll see you guys next week for another DIY where we get crafty and nerd out.